Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy Daly. Welcome to another Ampt live stream. We are live on Twitch and LinkedIn and YouTube and probably another one, X, I don't know, whatever. We're live on all kinds of places. So I hope you're joining us. And today I want to get right into it. So normally kind of go through a couple things, set some things up, but the big thing that I want to talk about today is actually building something with Ampt. The last couple of weeks, maybe I should say the last couple of months, these live streams have been a lot about like individual things you can do, like how you use tasks, how you use data, how you use some of these other things, how you log in, some of the different features that we've built that just make life super easy for you. But the goal with today is to really just build something that you need to get done. You need to get done fast. You need to get done well. It needs to scale. You don't want to set up all of these, I say scale. When we get into this example, you'll notice it doesn't have to scale very big, but it's something you want to be able to sort of get out there, and you want it to be secure and do the things you needed to do. And you don't want to go through the process of setting up a new AWS account and going through all the stuff that you have to do. So again, in certain situations, passes and things like that might work for you. But if you're in the AWS ecosystem, you're building on AWS anyways, you've got some other things you want to do. That's kind of the idea behind what we're going to build today. So just to give some quick background, I use Ampt for all kinds of things. I use it for my Off by None newsletter. I use it for the new news quiz that I put together for Off by None. We use it internally for our dashboard, for a bunch of admin tools we have, for our marketing automation, you name it. Basically, we build pretty much everything on Ampt. So we really do dog food our own product internally. And again, as someone who just needs to build things quickly, I use it all the time as well. So again, quickly, if you're not familiar with Ampt, Ampt is essentially a self-provisioning runtime for AWS. I know that's sort of it might not make a lot of sense, but the idea behind it is you just write application code and it reads in that code and it goes ahead and generates all the resources that are necessary for you. It's not magic. It uses a bunch of sort of well thought out algorithms. It uses a bunch of hints from the code. It uses productized patterns. So essentially the idea is to say, rather than us just displaying or just trying to figure out randomly what we need your code to do, we fit it into specific patterns that are well designed, well architected, that'll make sure that the application is going to run well at any scale. And we actually do some pretty cool things where we can change the application, change the components that are being used dynamically, which we call adaptive architecture. We can do that automatically for you behind the scenes without you changing your code, but it still fits into those patterns. So as your application scales, we can actually use different services to make sure that it meets the demands of those from both a performance and a cost standpoint as well. So anyways, let's talk about actually building something. So it is 2024. I have an 18-year-old daughter who is graduating from high school this year, and my wife wanted to do an invitation that was electronic. She wanted to have people RSVP online or do an invitation online, as opposed to sending out paper invitations, to save the planet, I guess. Let's say that. And so she's like, you can just build that on Ampt, right? I mean, again, my wife is not a technical person, but she immediately said, hey, why can't you build that on Ampt? I'm like, well, yeah, of course we could build that on Ampt. So what we wanted to do was provide a web page that our family and friends could go to, just send them an invite via email. They could go to that web page. It was password protected. We don't want anybody to be able to access it. You do need to have the password to get into it. And then just a simple RSVP form that tells us how many people are coming, whether or not you're coming, and maybe a message if you want to leave a message. As well. And so that was sort of a very simple thing to do. Now, there are a whole bunch of things out there. There's Evites and there's other, online systems that you can do reservations for. Maybe for our situation, yeah, something like an Evite would have been fine. We wouldn't have been able to customize it the way we wanted to, but it still would have been perfectly fine. So basically though, the idea behind this is just, it's just a form. It's capturing some data. It's storing it, in a database somewhere. But with Ampt, we don't have to set any of that stuff up. We just have to write some application code to do that. And of course, what we built for my daughter was very much so just a simple, it's just a simple one tenant system. But if you were building this for your company, or maybe you have like RSVPs or live stream events or something like this that you want people to register for ahead of time, maybe something like a Zoom webinars or whatever they're going to be. And again, this is just an example, but if you wanted to build something like that, and again, you didn't want to necessarily pay, I saw somebody comment that, a lot of these RSVP systems now, or these invite systems, are like you pay monthly. Like, that's kind of crazy, right? You're going to get a couple hundred invites that go out, or a couple hundred RSVPs maybe, and you maybe do one a month, maybe twice a year. If it's something like this graduation, you do it not very often. So anyways, let's show you what I built quickly, and then we'll build it. We'll rebuild it ourselves. We'll make it a little bit more flexible from a multi-event standpoint. But yeah, we'll just go through that. So basically what I set up, and I'm running this, by the way, this is the developer sandbox for this particular, for this, for the website here. Remember, the way that Ampt works is every environment you create, you get your own developer sandbox. For every app you create, you can create production environments, you can create preview environments to share it with other people to get feedback before it actually goes live. We just added a cool password protection feature for preview environments and things like that. So anyways, these are all separate AWS environments. So this is just this, I actually have a domain name for her. I actually bought her name domain when she was born 18 years ago, which is kind of crazy to think about. And I've been paying for it ever since. But finally, we're doing something with that domain, which I bought a lot of domains in my life, and I've never done anything with them. So finally, actually doing something with this domain. Anyways, so it's just a simple password form here, and then there is a password that we send out with it. You hit enter or log in, assuming this is going to work. Okay, so this will go ahead and load it. This is the this is the developer sandbox. So all these images are actually loading through the Lambda function to keep things super snappy. I did blur out some information to show you this, but essentially this is the invitation, and then it's got this, bring it to Tal if you want to swim, and this is the RSVP form down here. So it's just enter your name, email, leave a message, planning on attending, number of adults, number of kids, and then click to RSVP, and then some more information here. And I had to add this little fading in thing in order to put that on. I know this is this is an amazing design. I'm not a designer, but actually my daughter designed this invite. And actually the other cool thing about this is I did make it reactive, not reactive, I guess, responsive is the right word, so that it does reformat itself, as we do that. So anyways, that's neither here nor there. The idea is that you basically say, here's a test, and I'll say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Probably need another number in there. Happy graduation, like this. And yes, I plan on attending, and 2 adults are going to bring. So click to RSVP. It says, we look forward to seeing you. And that's it. And then it's out there. And please don't call my wife, which I just realized that her number is up on the screen there. So anyways, don't flood my wife's inbox. Anyway, so that's the basic idea. And then we built a very simple responses page here that just shows you all the responses that have come in for this. So anyways, pretty simple in terms of this just being a one-off sort of quick thing. But let's go ahead and actually build this. All right, so we're going to create a new Ampt project. So I'm going to open Visual Studio Code here. I'm going to CD into a directory on my machine called sandbox. Git/sandbox, like that. We'll make a new directory here, and let's call this RSVP app, and then we'll CD into the RSVP-app. Like that. Okay, so now we have this here, and then what I actually want to do is kind of want to shortcut this and make sure that we don't have to create a whole bunch of extra boilerplate in order to get some things working. Not boilerplate code, just some setup of a project. So I'm going to go to GitHub here, and I'm going to go to my repo here, and then I've got this Ampt Hono HTMX demo that I did. That's just a pretty simple pretty simple setup that's got some things set up for you so that we don't have to, so it uses Hono, and it uses this Fraglets thing to do some templates, and it has Tailwind all set up for us. So I'm just going to use this. So what I'm actually going to do is, I probably should have used this as a template. Is this, no, that's not the template one. Hold on. I thought I created a template for it. Give me a second here. So AI, Lambda Warmer, all my template. Well, I guess that is the one that I used. Well, we'll use it anyways. We're going to use that. We're going to use that demo one. Okay, so I'm going to take this. I'm going to go ahead and grab this here, and then we're just going to clone this down. So I'm going to do clone. I'm going to clone this, and then I think I can do this. Oh, it probably would help if I do git clone, right? Git clone. It should be cloning into that, and then if I look at this, oops, code dot. Okay, so now it's just clone that into my directory there, and then pwd. Yes, so we're in the sandbox RSVP app. Perfect. Okay, so now we have this copied in. I'm going to go ahead and rm. Let's see, rm-rf.git. I'm going to remove the git for now, so because it's assigned to something else. I'm going to go into package. All right, so let's just rename this as RSVP-app, and then we'll call this Ampt demo RSVP. And then index.tx, sure. And then this is just to do the HTML, I'm sorry, the Tailwind. And then this is the Fraglets package, which you can check out, which is kind of cool. This is using the wrong version of this, so we're going to have to make sure that this uses the most recent version. I don't know if I can just do that. And get some things installed. Okay, let's save this, clear this out. We'll do npm I. And we'll install all of these dependencies for us. So we should have all of this stuff working. And that should be good. Okay, and then we're just going to type in Ampt. And we're just going to start and create an Ampt project. I don't think I have it named yet. Right. Okay, so we need to select an organization. So I'm going to select my demo organization. We'll call this RSVP-app, like that. And this will go ahead and sync and create a completely new, independent, isolated developer sandbox for us. And it just takes a second, and we will get a URL. Connecting to real-time logs. All right, so now we have this URL. I click open here, and this is going to go ahead and load this demo app for us. Which again has no styles, and there's also no data here. And if you go back and you read this, it mentions that you have to, it mentions running amp dev as well as running import. So if we run the dev command here and we were to import some data, I think I've showed you this one before. Go back over to the User Manager, refresh this, and we get this interactive thing here. Okay, we don't care about any of that. We're going to get rid of all of that stuff, and we're going to do our own thing. All right, so let's start here. First of all, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, and hopefully that's not too small to read on the screen here. Like this, like that. Okay. All right, so a couple things we want to do. So let's ignore the package file for now. Let's go into our index.tsx file. This is a TSX file because I think this example here actually puts the stuff in if you want to do JSX with Hono, which is cool stuff if you want to. Perfectly fine, build your templates any way you want. I don't really care. Okay, so a couple things we're going to do. So first of all, we're going to use precompiled templates with Fraglets just because it is a little bit faster. If you do it this way, by the way, it'll pull in the precompiled ones first. So we can leave it. That's fine. Doesn't matter. But just to quickly go over this, so we're importing Hono, importing this Fraglets package, which is just nunjux with a little bit of flair on top of it for doing fragments, which is pretty cool. And then we're bringing in the data package, which is the Ampt data package. It's just a abstraction on top of DynamoDB. We initialize Fraglets, so we create this Fraglets instance here. Create an instance of the Hono app, and then we've got this get thing here that is going to stream some things here. I'm going to just change this You can do streaming with Fraglets, which is pretty cool. But we actually don't need that. We're just gonna do regular render like this. And then here we actually can just return the HTML. And we'll change this to output. And probably create a variable named output as well so that we can all see it. Output. I cannot spell. Output. There we go. Okay. That should be good. All right. So then there's a couple of these other paths for editing and things like that. I'm going to delete all of this so that we can start from scratch. Again, assuming I can click the right buttons here. Just do that. Delete. Okay. Save that. All right, so now we just have a very simple thing that is going to load this users page, and I'm just going to call this, I'll call it RSVP. How about that? .html, and then we'll just say RSVP VP system. Okay, we'll save that, and then we'll go over to our templates directory, and we can go ahead and delete these two because we don't need those. I guess we could just delete the precompiled directory altogether. And go into the template. So we have a base and we have a users, right? So the base is just loading this, our style sheets, as well as the HTMX behind the scenes. I used HTMX on that other invitation site just because, I mean, I don't know, React was a mistake in my opinion. So hope that's not controversial to anyone. All right, I'm going to rename this RSVP. And then I'm just going to get rid of all of this stuff and basically just have this content block, which, oops. By the way that this works is, this is just nunjuck. So it says extends base.html. So base HTML here has this block content block, and then what it does is that anything you put within the block content gets replaced in the main or the base file here. So I'm just going to say h1. Oops, actually filled in something I wanted. RSVP system like this. Okay, so this isn't going to render with any styles because the way that this will work is it's Tailwind, so we have to add these styles ourselves. So not that this is important, but I tend to be a stickler for things like this, so we'll just make this text XL and font bold. And let's do text. How about a nice dark green color here? Okay, so we have now our RSVP system is, we've got the basics for it. All right, so now we have to do is, let's do the first part of this, which is going to be to actually collect the form data itself. So we have to build a form. So a couple different things. So one, I think what would probably be easier, just so that we don't waste a ton of time sort of doing this, is I already built a form for this. And if I just copy and paste this over here, like this, we can go through this and it should be pretty easy to see. Okay, so I've created a form. All right, it's an HX post, which is the way that HTMX works. This will just tell it to post this form as an AJAX request, as opposed to actually posting it to this RSVP endpoint, and I don't have to write anything fancy in order to make that work behind the scenes. It just does it all for me. What I've done is I've added this if errors here, which basically will just go ahead and loop through any errors that exist, and it will spit them back out and say that there's, will spit out the error message for me. So that'll only happen if there are any errors that exist. And then I have a div that has the name, enter your name, a div that has your contact that says, and again, this is just, place, so this is a name variable, which will feed back into the template in order to show this. Placeholders, empty your name, some classes, some styles around the input. And then we have a contact, which again, this was just generic contact. So actually let's change this to email address. We'll make people make sure that they enter in their email, and then we can also validate the email here. And we won't make this optional for this version of it. And then leave a message, so that can be optional. That's neither here nor there. One thing that you see, I did add this auto grow class here. And what this auto grow does is it just makes that box automatically grow for us. And you can do that. See if I have this Yeah, so I have like this little script that we could probably use. We'll get to that later. We don't need to get into the detail. We're not overly worried about the UI so much as the functionality and making sure this works. And of course, you can make this UI however you want. This is not specific to HTMX or anything like that. I'm just using, just building the basics of this and building the bones. But let's get it working. So anyways, I have a text area with the message, right? Feed the message back in. And then I have a planning to attend, and then we have a yes, no button. And again, this is an input. I added an ID so that we could have a label for it with a cursor for this. So that way, if you click yes, it'll automatically check the button if you're familiar with HTML and how that works. And then I also have one here for the no, same thing with a pointer with just a value of true or false. And then the number of adults. So this is going to be, so basically it's saying if there are no adults, so if we don't pass a value of adults in, then we're going to just default adults to 2. We probably don't need adults and kids if this is a different type of reservation system, but I'm going to leave it in for now just because, just so we can see it. But essentially what it's saying is then do a loop over this range of 1 through 7. It's really weird how Nunjux works here, but this will generate 0 through 6 for I. I guess it's an array based. There probably is a way, I think you can do a non-zero based array as well if you wanted to. Anyway, so then we'll say if the adult is that particular value, and again, we have to make sure it's a string because the value that we'll pass in will be a string unless we parse it out. Again, I just did it this way. Then we want to make sure that it's selected. Same thing for the number of kids. Set the kids to 0. We'll default the kids to 0. And then we'll go ahead and give us a submit form, say click here to RSVP, and that should basically be it. So if we save this, over here, save this, and then jump back to this, we should now have our RSVP form here. Okay, so obviously this is a little bit big. We don't want all of that. So let's just go ahead and add a couple of quick styles here. So we'll add a div, and I'll put this at the end of the form here. And then with this div, we can do class, and we'll do a max width of, I'll just say XL, see what that does for us. Okay, that's too much. Max width of MD, how about that? Try that one. Okay, that's a little bit better. And we'll add some padding underneath this here, so more margin. Margin bottom, give it 8, refresh. Okay, so we've got this in now. Let's change this so it says RSVP for our event. I guess event doesn't need to be like that. We'll do this and that and save anything. Bang. Okay, here we go. All right, so now we have our form all set up. Again, this should all be working now, right? So there, we can change this 1 through 6, 1 through 4, whatever it is, 1 through 6. We can change all that if we want to. And now we want to make this click to RSVP work correctly. So let's go ahead and open the inspection window here, and we'll go to network so we can see the requests that are being made. Make this a little bit better and refresh. We'll see all the stuff that loads. Clear that out. Now, if I click to RSVP, it's going to try to go to the /RSVP, which is going to tell us is not found, which makes sense. But we are doing /RSVP. So let's create the RSVP endpoint. So we'll just do app.post, and this will be /RSVP. And we want it to be async, and they'll say C for, which is the context window here. And I'll just go ahead and do this for now just to see what it does. Okay, so a couple things. We want this to return HTML. This is yeah, my brain's not working today. Apologies. This is HTMX, so we do need to return HTML. So I'm just going to put in here now and say, RSVP submitted. We'll do some more with that in a minute. And what is wrong here? I need to do that. Okay. So now this is going to take this post and it's going to bring in some stuff. So this c.body is not right. It needs to be c.parse, c.rec. parse body. I think that's what it is. Yep. So we're going to parse the body here. And then I'm just going to say body like this. And we can go ahead and log the body so that we'll see all the stuff that we submitted. And then we'll be able to see those logs down here. Okay, so if we come back here and we click to submit this, now this RSVP will work and it'll say it's been submitted. And then over here, we should see some things, but we didn't because we didn't await this. So let's try that again. Refresh, submit this here, RSVP works. And now we get name, email, message, adults, and kids. So these are the values that we're getting back that are being parsed. Obviously, name, email, message, and adults and message are blank, and we have to decide now. We want to error if that information isn't there. So the best way to do that, at least in my opinion, an easy way to do it. I know there's other ones out there, but there is something called ZOD. We've talked about this in the past. TypeScript first, schema validation with type inference. Okay, so pretty easy to use this. It can get quite complicated, but it's pretty good. I like this one because it gives you a whole bunch of stuff that it does, and you don't have to sort of worry about it. So, all right, so we're going to npm install Zod. Jump back over here, add Zod to our stuff, and then we can import Z from Zod like that. Okay, so now we have the ability to validate, or now we have this validation library that's set up. Okay, so the other thing that we want to do is we want to actually create some sort of validation. Now again, this is just Node, right? So you can import files from, you could separate these out into separate files and structure the project any way you want to. I'm just trying to make it, just put it all in one to make it simple enough to sort of grok. So what we want to do is we want to create a new thing, RSVP schema. That sounds great. Okay, so we need to create a new RSVP schema. So there's a couple things that we can do. We can go ahead and just say the first thing we want is, well, see how much of this actually puts in for us. Okay, so we get name, email. We don't have message, but we do want to add some, even if you make them optional, by the way, you still, like this, you still want to have some things there. Attending and then guests is numbers optional. So we're going to make this adults, and then we'll do another one for kids, like this. Okay. All right, so a couple things here. First of all the data that comes in from a post request is going to be, it's going to be strings, right? So this, you notice that even the adults is a string. So anything we send in is going to be a string. We don't have to worry about it for the purpose of, we don't have to worry about it for the purpose of anything that is a string, right? But if it's a number or something like that, like attending Z Boolean, this is not going to work because it is going to assume that that attending is, and actually, is it attending the right? Should even see if that's the right one because we didn't obviously submit it here. So let me do yes and make sure we get, oh, it's just attend. Okay, so let's change it to attending. Why not? Go back over here, come into our RSVP, and change planning to attend. We'll make this attending, and we'll make this attending as well, like that. Okay, that way it'll just be a little bit clearer. All right, so now if we were to submit it again, and we say yes, yes, attending, we'll get attending true. Okay, so a couple of different things that we can do here is we can try to force it into a Boolean. That is possible to do. And same thing with these two things that you could do numbers with as well. So just quickly in terms of how this would work, I already did this somewhere else, obviously for this one. So I'll show you what we can do here. So, okay, so the first thing, let's just focus on the strings to start. Come over here. So we want this to make sure it's a string. That's the first thing it needs to do. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to make sure that it is a minimum of at least 2. I mean, again, we can say whatever we want. We could say this to be 3, and then a maximum of 50, name cannot exceed 50 characters. Okay, so let's do something similar with email. And what we want to do is we can do, oops, get rid of that comma there. So we can do a bunch of different things. So we can say expected identifier, but found dot is probably just my, I think email, this should work. So say, please enter your email. I don't know if we actually need this one, maybe. And then let's change this to 75. And then we say email cannot exceed 75 characters. I don't know how long emails can actually be, but it is what it is. And then email here, and then we can do a message that says, please enter a valid email address. Thank you, Copilot. Okay, so that should be good. Let's clear this out here. Oops, like that. Okay, so that should be good. And then for the message, that's just going to be a string. It's going to be optional, but we do want to put a limit on it. So we should add a max to this. So I can just type in zstring optional. I think you can do, I don't think it matters the order. Maybe it does, but let's say max, and then we'll just say, I don't know, 250. And we'll put a message in here that says, see if it figures it out for me. Oh, it didn't. Okay. We'll say that message cannot exceed 250 characters. Like that. Okay, so that should be good. Assuming that'll all work. And then in terms of attending on that side of things, so we can make sure that it comes in as a string. And so that's the first thing we can do, right? So we'll say we actually want this to come in as a string. So here's some cool things we can do here. As a string, and then we'll create a message that says, please, what do we want to say? Please select whether you are attending, whether or not you are attending. Sure. Attending. All right, so that will be for that one. And then what we want to do is we want to run a transform here. And the way that transform works, let's see if this will just, okay, there we go. So transform will take a value in, so we can call this v, and then we can run it through a function. So we'll say if v equals, I'm going to say if v equals true, like that, then return true, otherwise return false. That should be right. Yeah. Yes, because it has to exist. So if it doesn't exist, you'll get an error before. And then the last thing we could do is, no, so that should fail. So if there's no value there, but we also want to check to make sure that the value is a correct value. So actually what we want to do is say, if v equals true, make this true. Otherwise, if v equals false, false, then make it false. Otherwise, I guess we can make it whatever the value is. So I guess just v, like this. All right, and then we can do one more step here where we can say, and we'll say v type of v equals Boolean. So this will return true if type of v equals Boolean. That should be right. Just double checking my math over here. Type of x equals Boolean. Yeah. And so if it's not invalid, so yeah, we don't even need to return a message here, I guess, but invalid value for attending. That's fine. So that should work for us there. All right. And then for the adults and the kids, we want to make sure that these are numbers. So we have to first make sure that they are strings coming in. So we'll do strings because that's the way it's going to be. Both of these are going to be required, by the way. Like this. And so then we can transform them. And we'll transform them by parsing the int. This might actually do all this for me. Hold on, let me let me say, okay, so this is a string, transforms it by parsing an integer, and then it checks to see if v is greater than 0, invalid value, or if it's v is greater than or equal to 0, invalid. So that's not right. That's the only problem when it fills in stuff for you sometimes. So we want to say if v, oh, no, I'm sorry. That's right. So if it's greater, yes, sorry. So we actually want to do if v is greater than 0 and v, and actually we just want it to be greater than 0, and v is equal to 6, then it can go ahead. Then it's valid. Otherwise, it would return invalid. And we'll just say number of adults, like that. And then we can actually just copy the same exact thing like this and paste it for the kids as well. And save that. Got to add the z there, otherwise it doesn't like it. Parse int greater than, so this has to be greater than or equal to 0. So this one can be 0. Got to have at least one adult if you're doing the other way around. And then invalid number of kids. Okay, sorry. That was a lot, but I think we have this now. So now we have this RSVP schema that is name, email, message, attending, adults, and kids. This does all the checks we wanted to do. It spits back all of the error messages we need, and it goes ahead and also does the transformations to the right types of scalars for us. So, all right, so now what we want to do is we actually want to apply that. And so we're going to take the entire body in, and then we're going to do const, and we'll say, I don't know, we'll call this RSVP. Let me zoom in a little bit. Oops, that's too much, sorry. Can probably hide this, right? Okay, so RSVP, and then we're going to do, equals RSVP schema parse, but what we're going to do is rather than do parse, we're going to do safe parse, like that, And what safe parse will do is it will then give us back more information about whether or not this was correct. So we've got the safe parse ready to go. We're over there. We're going to jump over to this. I'll make this a little bit smaller so we can see the logs come in. Make this smaller here. Do this, refresh. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and submit this. And then this should come back and give us that it was false with a bunch of different errors, which is exactly what we want to do. So let's actually do this so that we can see those. We'll say if RSVP success is false, then we want to return the error messages. We'll do something with this in a second. Otherwise, we want to go ahead and log RSVP like that. And in this case, actually, we're just going to do log. And then we'll do RSVP .error.errors so that we can see that. Okay, console.log. Junk in there. Bang, bang, bang. Good. Okay, refresh. And click to RSVP. Okay, so here's what we get. And this is what's great about Zod because it just does this for us. So we now have a response that, again, we know that the success was false here. And so we get all these errors. Please enter your name. Please enter your email. Please enter a valid email address. Please select whether or not you are attending. So all of that information is already coming back for us. So this please enter your email and please enter a valid email address. I would assume this is inclusive true. I'm wondering if, just out of curiosity, we don't need to worry about the minimum on the email address because I think it'll just automatically tell us if it's valid, right? Let's comment both of those out for now and make sure that that'll work. Refresh. Okay, click to RSVP. All right, enter your name, enter a valid email address. Please select whether or not you're attending. Okay, so that's giving us our errors. We're going to use those in a moment. And then over here, let's say that we entered in Jeremy, and my email is Jeremy at getampt.com. Wow. And, no, I'm good. I'll figure it out. Hello. All right. And do I want to attend? Yes, I do. Click to RSVP. Boom. So now I see that if it passes all my checks, I get this data. I get in my in the safe parse, the result of the safe parse, which again I'm parsing into this RSVP variable here. I get success is true, and then I get the data back. And if you notice here, you'll see that Jeremy and email and message are all those are strings, but it's converted attending into a Boolean, and it's converted kids and adults into numbers. So that's just a nice feature of the system or of Zod, is that you can do all of that there, and then you don't have to worry about it. And then if you want to update, a message, you want to update your you want to update your error messages, things like that. You can just do it right through that schema thing, and it's very, very nice. And there's all kinds of crazy stuff you can do. Just check it out. Okay. Anyways, let's work on the error case first, and then we'll go back and we'll actually capture the data. All right. So if there are those errors, then we want to actually spit back the form again, and we want to spit back the form with those errors highlighted. So a couple of things we're going to do. We're going to go back into the RSVP template that we've set up here. And again, we have this section that's content, and then we've got the form, and we've got all this other stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and create in here a new block, and I'm just going to call this form, like this. All right, and then I need to go to the end of the form here, and I need to do end block. Right? Yeah, end block like that. Okay, so, and I guess I gotta finish that out. I hate when it renders it in gray and then also like previews it in gray. That doesn't help me very much. Okay, so anyways, all I've done is just created a fragment called form, and I'm actually gonna call this, I think I'm gonna call this RSVP form, just so that we are a little bit clearer, because form is maybe too obvious. So RSVP form, yeah. So this has created a block where I can now pull out just that one section of code, one section of HTML, and re-render that if I want to do that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back over to the index here. And when we loaded this the first time, all we were passing in was just the title, right? So I'm going to go ahead and copy this again, and I'm going to come down here into this section. Oops. Clean up this a little bit. And then what I want to do is, if this isn't correct, so if we are getting some errors, then I actually want to return this same thing again, only now I only care about the RSVP form like this. Okay, so what this is telling us now is, and I won't need this title in here, this is saying just use this bit of the form, or this bit of the template, and then you go ahead and populate it. So what I'm going to do is, to make it a little bit easier, is I want to make sure that I return all of the data that came in via the body, right? So all those fields, I want that to feed back into the form. So I'm going to use ... body, and that's just going to use the spread operator to pull that stuff back in. And then the other thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that I pass in the errors, which are the RSVP errors like that. Okay, save that. Now, what this should do is, this is going to pass in, if you remember, go down here. I think I can scroll back. Maybe not. Well, let's do this. I'm still going to log those errors there. So let me refresh here. I'll submit this empty thing again. All right, so we see that this comes back, and each one of these, this is just an array of errors, and it has a message, okay? So what we did in our RSVP form here is we said, if errors exist, so if this variable is passed through into the template, then go ahead and loop through those errors, which it knows is an array, and then just, for every error, show the error.message. So what that gives us is this. So it says, please enter your name, please enter a valid email address, please select whether or not you're attending. So every time I hit this is doing the same thing. It's submitting this over again. So if I put my name in now and I say Jeremy Daly like this, and I click to RSVP, Now that check is passing, so I don't have to worry about that. So if I just enter in junk for an email address, it should say that I still have a bad email address. So now I'll do jeremy@getampt.com like this, click to RSVP there. All right, and that's working as well. So now if I enter in, let's see if I can put more than 250 characters. I don't know how much I'm putting here, so that should be more than 250 characters. I click RSVP, message cannot exceed 250 characters. So that's just done for me. So I don't even need a message. It's optional, right? So when I do that, it's not gonna yell at me. And then I just have to say whether I'm attending or not. I'm gonna say, no, I'm not attending. I click submit. Now that worked. Okay, so all that error handling is all taken care of just through, again, this one schema that we've defined here. Which is pretty cool. So it does look like we don't need this, by the way, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, so let's go back down and process this data now. So we no longer need to show these errors here and fill up that with a bunch of junk. And the last thing we want to do is we want to be able to go ahead and output or capture the data when it actually comes in. So there's a couple different things we can do. We don't actually need this else statement here because once this returns, it'll return from the function and it will no longer process. So we'll just assume that if it does, if it returns before that, then we don't have to worry about an if statement there, and then we don't have to have a bunch of messy nested if else's, right? Okay, so what we want to do here is we actually want to go ahead and write this data into the system. So Ampt data is very, very simple. I'm just going to do const and I'll just do saved like this, and we'll do await data dot set. And what we need to do is we need to set, we need a key for it. So I'm going to leave that blank just for a second. Actually, I'm going to do it like that. And then we want to pass in whatever we want to save. So in this case, really all we need to do is just save the valid data that comes in. If we go all the way down the end here, we have this data, right? So we can just go ahead for this and just do a, I think we can just do, I guess we just do RSVP data if we're not creating a more complex object. So this will just write all of this data for us right into the database, just save it as an object. So it'll just save this data as an object in our DynamoDB table, and it'll be available for us, and we can do whatever we want with that. So the only thing we need to do is we need to set some sort of a key. So this is where you could do some interesting things around, say, multiple events, right? So let's say that you had multiple events that you were doing. So we could set somewhere on here a hidden variable maybe. I guess we can do that. Let's just do that so that we have it. So let's do input type hidden. We don't need to do a CSRF token. We'll call this event ID like this, and we'll call this event _ID. We can validate this too if we wanted to, but essentially what we can do here now is when this page loads, we can pass in an event ID. So let's say event _ID, we don't do that, sorry, equals 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be our event ID. And then we want to also make sure, again, we would have to, well, I guess we can do it. We want to do this here when we send the form back to the user. With this, we would also need to make sure that we sent in that event ID. So you could do this based on the form that was submitted, or there's a bunch of different ways you could do this. But this way you could have this be dynamic, and you can change what that event ID is going to be. And so what we can do on this side is we can then say, this is an RSVP, whoops, and then I'll use a £, just you can use whatever you want, but this is just a nice separator. And then I'll pass in whatever the event, I guess it's going to be RSVP data event _ID. Now, by the way, this is something that is pretty cool. This doesn't exist on that Zod schema that we created. So we have to go back and actually have to add this in. So we'll say event ID is just a string. We'll say it's required. We don't have to worry about, again, we can validate this. You could check it to make sure that it is a valid ID. You check it against another database or another table or whatever to make sure that existed. I'm not too concerned about that. I just want to get it into the system. So we've got that event ID. So even here, I guess we could actually change this to be, whatever the, oops, not there. So that ID we would hard code or load from something. And then this one here, when we do this, this will actually be body dot event ID. And again, you can ensure this was loaded some other way. All right, so that should be it for that. Hit save. So this will go ahead and save this for us, give us the RSVP, give us the data, the event name, and then what we need to do is we need to make this unique somehow. So the RSVP itself wouldn't necessarily be unique, so we want some value in there. So just a super simple way to do it is just to use OLIDs. Again, I don't want to debate UUIDs and OLIDs and all these other things. Sorry, dog's barking in the background. Anyway, so I'm going to install. Well, I can just do install, right, because I'm in the shell. I'm going to install OLID like this. Package not found because I'm not doing something right. OLIDs. Where's it? OLED? Why am my brain's not working here? NPM. Oh. No, that's solid. Is it? Why am I not? I don't know why I'm saying OLID. ULID. Okay, sorry, my brain's not working. ULIDs. ULID. That's what I want. Okay. Long day. ULID. All right, so ULIDs, if you're not familiar with those, which apparently I'm not either. Let's see, NPM. ULIDs are just a lexicographically sorted identifier. And what it does is it just spits back this sort of a long chain, and all you have to do is these are then ordered, and the way that DynamoDB works is that sort keys are lexicographically sorted, so you would want to do that. So anyway, so we've got ULID package here. We need to go ahead and import, I think you do it this way, ULID from ULID. And then what we can do here is when we write this to the database on the other side of the colon. So again, anything to the left of the colon is going to be our collection name, which is our key or our partition key in DynamoDB. And anything to the right of the colon is going to be our sort key on the primary index. So here we'll just go ahead and create a ULID like this. And that is not how we create a ULID. Sorry, we create it like this and like this. All right. So that should work, assuming ULID works correctly. I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to refresh to this one, hit refresh, and type in Jeremy at getampt.com. Hello from a reservation system. Like this. I'm going to say, yes, I'm attending. I'm coming. I now have 3 adults that live in my house, including my 18-year-old daughter, and then 1 child who's 16, but don't tell her I said she was a kid. And I'm going to click to RSVP, and it's going to say something's required. What is it saying is required? Let's go ahead and see. So it's giving us, let's see, if not success. So... errors. This will just give us some more detail. Also, please select whether you're attending. Oh, I have to fix that, by the way. So it says event ID is required. Are we not sending in the event ID? I thought we were. Input. How about input? Okay, all right. But this is why we debug, right? We figure these things out. Okay, so the other thing I noticed, by the way, is it's not saving whether or not I'm attending. So if I click to RSVP again, this should, the first time it'll be an issue, and then when I refresh this here, this should fix it. So, because it is refreshing that data in the background or replacing that form, so it fixed that messed up thing for me. So please select whether or not I'm attending. So I'm gonna actually remove my name for a second, click to RSVP, and then I'm going to actually select one of these, click that, and then notice that that disappears. So there's something going on there. So let's just double check and see why that isn't working. So for attending here, this is probably because we changed the name, which it is. So this should be attending equals false versus attending equals true. This is what you get when you refactor. So I'll click to refresh. Okay, so I'm going to hit yes, hit submit. All right, now that's saving that for me. Okay, so we should be good. Let me just go and remove this extra logging that we don't need here. Hit save, clear over here. And now I'm going to submit this with my name as Jeremy and click to RSVP. RSVP submitted. Okay, so now if I come over here and I hit open, this will bring me into my account. I'll go ahead and log in. Log in as Jeremy at jeremydaly.com. Ask me for my password, sure. Cancel that. I know. Okay, so then it's going to load my environments for this RSVP app. So I've got this Jeremy Ampt, which is my my test one, or my developer sandbox. I go in here, I click on data, and I will make this a little bit bigger or smaller so we can see it. Hit get all items. I've got this junk in here from before, so I'll delete those. And now we have this right here. So this is telling me, here's my message. And by the way, RSVP number. So it didn't fill in that information, by the way. So we do need to figure that out quickly, and then we'll get that. Event ID is empty there. Okay, so let's fix that problem. I'm going to delete this. Quick, come over here. So event ID, body.event ID. And we did call it event ID, right? Let's just double check. Email, name, event underscore ID, value, event ID. So let's just double check here and see when we submit it if that is actually being shown. So we'll log out the body again, like that. I'm back over here, refresh, and then RSVP. So event ID is 1234. So that is there. Okay, so the event is coming in. So where are we missing something? So this is body.event ID. That should be right? And I'm gonna leave that logging for a second just to double check. So when it refills this in, event ID. Okay, so those are all there. So where are we going wrong? So RSVP parses the body, RSVP form, body.event ID. So we know that's working. So then data, RSVP.data.event ID. So this is where we didn't get the information. So let's go ahead and let's log RSVP out. And then this is going to tell us success. It's going to give us those errors, so we do need to fill in some information here. Event ID, data.event ID. So that should be there. So what am I doing wrong? RSVP data.event ID and the data. It looks like it's good. Let me double check over here. There we go. Okay. Maybe I was just the way I was submitting. So event ID is there. The event ID is there. Okay, we're good. All right. That should be good. All right. So that works. That works. And I'll get rid of this like that. And we go back here, RSVP one more time. So Jeremy and my email, which is already there for me. Hello. Planning to attend, yes, 3 adults, 1 kid. Click to RSVP, RSVP submitted, and then over here, refresh this, and I have hello information there, and I am good to go. All right, so was this useful to you? Hopefully. The idea here, though, is that, again, fairly easy to build these interactive things. We didn't do the password protection. That was fairly easy, password protection. Again, what I did is just added piece of middleware that checks for the existence of a cookie. If there's a cookie doesn't exist, and it just loads a little password form, you put the password in. As long as the password is right, then it goes ahead and processes it and lets you in, and then saves that cookie, so it processes it that way. And then in order to do the admin page for it, that just shows which things are listed. That was pretty simple. I actually could show you. Let's see if we want to see this quickly. I basically just created a page called admin like this. And this was just another template. And none of that was really relevant, but just created a form and then just loop over the responses. And again, just feed the responses in, to the template. It's just another route on the Hono app. So, pretty straightforward. Hopefully there's some good information that you learn there. So check out Ampt. It's super easy. And behind the scenes, again, just to, again, it's sort of this stuff, because it happens so seamlessly and you don't have to do anything to make it happen. But this set up, a CloudFront distribution for you. All your S3 buckets are set up. All of your, there's DynamoDB tables and Lambda functions, and everything that you need is just automatically set up behind the scenes for you. It's all running directly on AWS. So anyways, give it a try. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully, you can go ahead and maybe build your own RSVP system or invite system. Maybe turn it into a business, because some of these other ones are getting kind of expensive to run. So, quick one-offs or whatever you want to do. But anything. Oh yeah, David. Okay, so I should be paying more attention to the comments here, because let's see. David did say ULID. Yes, I don't know why I was thinking OLID, so thank you for that. And then also, yes, I did have a typo of input in my template. So I should be paying attention more to your comments, so that I can pick those things up. Anyways, this was super basic, but this is real. This is something I built real world. Again, does this warrant a Kubernetes cluster to build something like this? Absolutely not. So if you want to build something quick and simple that has everything that you need and all that power behind you, and all the power of AWS behind you, so that you can do those things, hopefully it's a useful tool for you. So anyways, I think that's it. Any more questions, please feel free to send me an email, jeremy@getampt.com. If you go to our site over here, there's our Discord is here, also our GitHub, if you have questions, and of course we've got some contact forms or some chat on there as well. So anyways, hopefully that was useful, and go build some cool stuff.